Well, hey there, guys and gals, if there's any out there that are watching this video. Welcome to the long-awaited, long-delayed list of my personal picks for my favorite films of the year 2014. I know it's the year 2015, and here I am. I'm just finally now just doing this. And wasn't able to get around to watching all the films that I wanted to watch from 2014 until recently. So, better late than never, so to speak. Now, before I get into my actual list, which is actually 18 films, surprisingly, yes, 18 movies. My list of films that I liked from last year is a lot bigger than the list of films that I didn't like. But the films that I didn't like were some of the worst that I had seen in recent years, so it kind of evened out a little bit. But there were quite a few surprising good films from last year. Some movies that I thought weren't going to be very good ended up being some of my favorite films of the year. Other films I was anticipating, and they ended up living up to my expectations. And anyway, so before I get into the list of what I consider to be my picks for the best of 2014, I want to give a few honorable mentions, so to speak. So, these are films that I liked, but I didn't like enough to put them on the list. And those films are starting off Nonstop, a film with Liam Neeson, which was an interesting thriller, but I think I was just burned out by the airplane thriller movies because I saw that film when I was watching all these other airplane thriller films, so I was a bit burned out by it. I thought it was okay. I thought it had a good performance by Liam Neeson. But I thought the bad guy's motivation was pretty stupid. And all in all, I don't know. I thought it could use a little bit more action. But yeah, I didn't hate the movie, but I didn't like it enough to put it on my best list. My friend Matt, Ramble Rat for Life, he feels the complete opposite about that film. That's on his best of list. So that's another film that we don't see eye to eye on. We don't always just agree on everything. Um, and there's a few other movies that I have on my list that he doesn't really agree with either. So this video is kind of a way to prove to people that I don't just always like things that Matt likes, and Matt doesn't always like things that I like, and so forth. We do have our own personal opinions. We don't just share the same thing. We have a lot of things alike. There's a lot of things that we have similar tastes, and but it doesn't mean that we all like the same thing. I'm sorry, I'm kind of paranoid here. Like, what the? I thought I was hearing something. I'm losing my mind. No, I was just I have a cat, so I was wondering if the cat's gonna try to sneak in my room, and I was trying to make sure that didn't happen because I didn't need that kind of distraction right now. But anyway, yeah, Nonstop, it was all right, but not enough, not a good enough film to put on my best of list. Now, another film that I liked all right, which actually I gave it a higher rating, uh, a rating that probably would put it on my best of list, but it's a film I thought about some more, and I'm thinking like if I was gonna redo that review, I wouldn't give it 4 stars. And the film that I'm talking about is a film called Lucy, Luc Besson film starring Scarlett Johansson. It's a film that, looking back at it, there were some good visuals, some decent action, but I really don't think it's a film that I'd probably consider one of my favorites of last year, or a film that I really love. And I don't know, it's one of those films that when I did the review, I was really, really kind on it, and I think it was a little bit too kind on it, to be honest. Um, that's why I like to do reviews of films after I sit on it for a bit. I don't just review it right after I see it. But sometimes it ends up working out that way. But Lucy's still a pretty good film. I'm just, there are other movies that I like from 2014 more. Another film that I like from 2014 that I wouldn't put on this list, but I liked it, is Extraterrestrial. If I could put my fan cut on there, if I could put my own personal edit of the film on the list, I would, but that doesn't count because it's not the way that's can't put fan edits on your list of best films of the year. You got to put them as is. And Extraterrestrial as is a really fun, really well done alien abduction flick with a good story and a decent cast until the fucking ending where it just basically tells you to fuck off. And I hated that ending. I really did. The ending brings the film down considerably. But even with the ending, I still didn't mind the film. But the ending really, really hurts the film. And it hurts it enough that I can't put it on my list of favorite films of the year. And I had it on the list originally, but then I thought about it some more. And I'm like, I just can't possibly put this film on my list of best films of 2014 because I did not like the ending at all. Um, so yeah, Extraterrestrials is an honorable mention. Another honorable mention is a film called Starry Eyes. It's a film a lot of people loved from last year. I thought it was okay. I thought it was above average. Had some good visuals. It's had its moments. Had a great soundtrack, but I just thought it could have been better. But anyway, that's it for my honorable mentions. Now I'm getting into my list of what I consider to be the best films of this year. Um, yeah, I'm just making sure I got another one on here. Oh yeah, completely. I gotta put this movie on here. Come on. I missed adding something because I completely forgot to add it on here. Anyway, starting off with well, I guess it's 19 now because I added an extra one. So starting off with number 19, the Lego Movie. Why is it so low? Just because it's so low, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that I liked a few other films more than this, and because I have some movies low here, all these movies I have on this list are 4.5, 5-star flicks. So Lego Movie to me is still a 4-star flick personally for me. I still think it was a really fun movie. It really brought me back to my childhood. I grew up playing with Legos. I thought it had a nice quirky sense of humor. I like the human elements of the story that were put in there. I thought it was a really fun movie. It was a film that a lot of people liked that I actually agreed with. I actually really did enjoy the film. I did a review of the movie. So you can just, if you want to hear more of my thoughts on the Lego Movie, you just go on my channel, go into the search box and type in Lego Movie, and you should be able to find the review. But yeah, I like the Lego Movie. It was surprisingly, I didn't see it in the theater, and watched it on home video. Actually, it was on demand, and it was surprisingly a really fun movie, and I definitely did like it. Number 18 is The Amazing Spider-Man 2, a film that my friend Matt hates. So this is another film that really proves that we don't all love and hate the same thing. I really liked this movie. I saw it in the theater. I was really entertained by it. I didn't find it boring personally. I thought Andrew Garfield did a great job, as well as Emma Stone. I even thought Dane DeHaan was a pretty good Green Goblin. They could have done a better job with the way they handled the story. They just kind of just threw him in there at the end, but I still think that he still did a pretty solid job. I thought the suit was the best that it's ever looked. I personally thought it was the best Spider-Man. I mean, it was like the best. I wouldn't say it's the best film of dealing with Spider-Man, but it's the best Spider-Man that I've ever seen in a Spider-Man film. Is in this movie, wisecracking, having fun. It really felt great to me because I was like, this is the Spider-Man I grew up with. This is the Spider-Man I grew up reading comics. This is the Spider-Man I really like, and I really liked Andrew Garfield. And to find out that, well, nope, too bad, so sad. He's no longer Spider-Man. And whatever stories we were building here, fuck that, because we're gonna reboot it again. And I know Kevin Feige was saying it's not gonna be an origin story again. Yeah, okay, probably not. It still doesn't change the fact that you're doing another Spider-Man movie. You rebooted it once, the franchise once. Now you're rebooting it a second time, and that's a bit too much. And I know everybody was like, "Yay, he's back with Marvel." So now Sony isn't, but Sony still has full creative control, folks. They say what's that? They pretty much have full say still. They just gave some of it to Marvel. They're going to listen to Marvel because they do know that Marvel will make them more money, but Sony still has final say. And Sony, they're to blame for why they decided to sell it to Marvel. They're to blame for everything. Why are they to blame? Because they spent $200 to $300 million in advertising, so a film that made over $700 million worldwide is not a success to them because it didn't make over $1 billion, because I guess they thought Spider-Man 2 was going to make $1 billion for some fucking reason. It shows how stupid Sony is, but they're never going to point the finger at themselves. They're going to blame Spider-Man. They're going to blame the franchise. They're going to blame the character. They're going to blame Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield actually had the balls to stand up and say that Sony was being stupid, and so they decided to screw him, and instead of point the finger at themselves because they're assholes. If you don't like the Amazing Spider-Man 2, that's fine. It's not a film for everybody. It does have a little bit of some. It does have some pacing issues. Pretty sure if I saw it again, uh, I would see some more problems with it. But I still find it to be entertaining. I thought the action sequences were pretty solid. I didn't mind Jamie Foxx as Electro, except for the moments when he's spouting stupid one-liners like "It's time to light the. It's my birthday. It's time to light the candles." And there are some moments that don't work, like the scientist guy at the Ravencroft Institute, who's just over the top and hammy and just feels completely out of place. But I thought there was a lot of things that worked. The romance between Peter Parker and Emma Stone, I thought was the strongest romance I've seen between a hero and his girlfriend, or the woman that he loves, since Superman the movie with Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve. I thought the score by Hans Zimmer I liked. I actually liked it a lot more than the score James Horner did for the Amazing Spider-Man. I thought it was a pretty good tune. It was a very heroic tune, and I liked it. And I like the movie. I kind of view it kind of as Batman Forever. I don't look at it as the Batman and Robin of the Spider-Man franchise. That is Spider-Man 3. That is still Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 is still worse than the Amazing Spider-Man 2. I still think the movie gets a little bit too much shit, especially from some of the fans of Spider-Man, because Electro doesn't have that much of a motivation. He doesn't have that much of a motivation in the comic either. He didn't have that much of a motivation in the 90s cartoon. We never had any issues with that. We have issues now, for some reason, because he doesn't have a motivation. He just went crazy. He lost it. He was already psychotic. He was already showing psychotic tendencies. He gets turned into this thing, this mutant, and Spider-Man's trying to help him, but the cops shoot him, and then he has a mental breakdown. Sometimes it happens like that. Sometimes it's that simple. I never had a problem with it. It didn't bother me. I didn't need an extra motivation for why Electro was doing what he was doing. I didn't need it. I personally didn't really need it to enjoy the film, but that's just me personally. I know a lot of people have a problem with that, but I don't get it. I personally don't get it. But hey, it's cool. I know my friend Matt feels the same way too, and a lot of other people feel the same way, and I'm kind of almost alone in this. The majority did not like The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I really enjoyed the film. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. Now, then the next film on the list is number 17 is Neighbors, a comedy that I didn't have any desire to see until my friend Matt pointed it out to me, and I really loved it. I thought it was a very funny, uh, really enjoyable film with a great cast: Seth Rogen and I gotta remember her name, Rose. I think it's Rose. I think it's Rose Byrne. I'm just double checking to make sure. Zac Efron was a real surprise to me. Yeah, it's Rose Byrne, who I thought she was really great. I think I think Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne playing the Mac and Kelly Radner is a great couple. I liked how they were a different sort of parent. They were parents that weren't afraid to be themselves. They weren't afraid to be non-PC. They weren't politically correct. They'd swear. They'd be themselves, but then they're still good parents. And I like that. They'd swear. They'd do this. They'd try to have fun and drink and whatever, but they do it with moderation, and they're still good parents. Just because you swear and say things and so forth, and you're a little bit edgy, it doesn't mean you're a bad parent just because you're not leave it to beaver quality in terms of parenting. I mean, we don't all have to be like that. You don't have to completely change who you are to be a good parent. And I like that message that that film was giving, and it's also really funny. The scene and the fight scene with Seth Rogen at the end was between him and Zac Efron is a laugh riot with the dildos and and I crack up. I just crack up thinking about this, where he thinks he's got the upper hand at Zac Efron, and he's like, "I'm Batman," and then jumps into a fucking fan. He jumps into a fucking fan. It's hilarious. And even my mom, who's kind of a prude, she was laughing hysterically at the end scenes, at that sequence between the fight between Zac Efron and Seth Rogen. So yeah, so that's definitely saying something. Um, I think it's a hilarious comedy. I think it was the best frat comedy I've seen since Animal House. I really do. Is it as good? Is it better than Animal House? No, but I still think it's a really good movie. I think it's a great film, great cast. Um, I didn't mind the premise, and overall, I really enjoyed Neighbors. I talk my ear off about I talk people's ears off about that movie already. Like I said, I already reviewed the film, so if you want to go in and see my thoughts on it, you can go in the search box on my channel and type in Neighbors. You can do the same for Amazing Spider-Man 2 as well. Um, number, I think it's number, because I'm on 1918, I'm number 16 is 22 Jump Street, which is a film that I've really enjoyed, and it's a film that it took me a second time around to watch it for me to actually get my true feelings on it. It was weird. It was weird. Like I watched it for the first time with my parents, and they didn't like it, and then that kind of rubbed off on me, and then my friend Matt's talking about the film, and then saw another trailer, and then I had this urge to just watch it again one night because I had just reviewed the first film, 21 Jump Street, so I had this urge to watch it again because I reviewed the first film, and I thought why not watch it again because I reviewed the first film, so I'm going to review the second movie, and I sat down and watched it by myself, and I loved it. I really did enjoy it because I love the first film and 21 Jump Street, and there are a lot of callbacks to the first movie that I didn't get the first time around because I hadn't watched the first film recently. So that helped. And also I didn't have an extra nobody else was influencing my opinion on the film except for me. So that's it, I kind of learned my lesson, so to speak. You know, if I'm going to see a movie and I'm going to review it, and I see it with a bunch of friends, hey, that's cool. But I should watch it again to make sure I really do like it or don't like it. And in the case of 22 Jump Street, I loved it. I really did enjoy the film. I just, for some reason, groupthink took over, and I agreed with my parents. And then, thank God, I watched it again. Otherwise, I'd miss out on a really fun sequel with arguably does a better job of some things than the first film did. It has better action sequences. Janko actually gets in some decent fights with some good fight choreography, and it's just as funny as the first film. I thought that there's some new cast members added in there that I thought really did a good job, especially the villain of the film, so to speak. This actress who's very talented. She has a really great dry wit and a great deadpan. Uh, and that actress is Jillian Bell. And yeah, it was a really fun. It was a fun sequel. I thought it was a really a fun sequel. The after end credits stuff, where they're doing all these different 22 Jump Street spin-offs and sequels was hilarious. That was the funniest part of the movie. I was in stitches watching that, and just thinking about it makes me crack up. And once again, Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum were great together. They have great chemistry. I would love to see 23 Jump Street. I'm all for it. Let's go for it. Let's go in for I'm ready for another jump. Um, so yeah, that's number 16. Number 15 is Brick Mansions, a one of the last films that Paul Walker did before he unfortunately passed away. And it's a film I wish I saw in the theater. I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it I think it was like a rip or something I found online. And I had a lot of fun with this movie. I really did. Honestly thought it was a better film than District B13 or just District 13, the film that it's a remake of. Um, Paul Walker was really good. Some really great fight choreography, some really rousing bits of parkour. The film opens up with a really fun parkour chase action sequence. Paul Walker holds his own. I like the scene where he kicks a bunch of guys' asses with his steering wheel. The film does a really good job with the action. I thought the pacing was pretty decent too. I didn't mind the plot, and overall, I really like the film. I think it's actually pretty underrated because I think critics were not very fond of it, but I thought it was a fun movie. I thought it was an entertaining action flick, and I definitely wouldn't mind adding it to my collection. Um, Number 14 is a horror film called Deliver Us from Evil. Now, this is a film yeah, it's technically a horror film, but it's more of a thriller. It's more of a thriller than just a straight up horror movie, and I think some people found that boring, but I didn't. I found it to be very engaging, entertaining horror thriller. Deliver Some Evil, starring Eric Bana. It was a great performance by Eric Bana as well, and even you had the guy from The Soup, um, Joel McHale, playing his partner, who was the comic relief, but he had moments where with a knife where he'd show that he could hold his own, and I liked the film. I thought it was actually a really good movie. I thought Scott Derrickson did a good job directing the movie. I thought it was better than Sinister, and it had a creep factor to it. It felt like Seven. It felt like a horror film version of Seven, and I like that about the movie. That's a kind of reminded me of End of Days in a way. I really liked End of Days. It's a sort of cop. At End of Days, Arnold's a former cop going in and investigating this whole thing, and uh, Eric Bana plays a cop investigating some horrific murders, and it ties into some demonic possession. And the film also does a great job using a song by Moby at the near the end. A really beautiful song. I think it's called When the Dawn Fades, I think, or When Dawn Fade New Dawn Fades. I think that's what it's called. And overall, I thought it was a really good movie. That was a very underrated flick. Great performance by Eric Bana. Yeah, it had some jump scares, but that's what a lot of horror films have nowadays. Didn't bother me. There was one that really did get me, so definitely got to give the film kudos for that. And yeah, it's a film. Definitely another film I would like to add to my collection. And also want to hear more of my thoughts on that film. Just type in the search box on my channel for Deliver Some Evil. I definitely did like that movie, and I it's another film that everybody pretty much did nothing in the box office. Fucking Ouija makes over 100 million, but it gets a sequel, but Deliver Some Evil did nothing, and nobody really cared about it. And it is what it is. But I like the film. I thought it was actually really effective horror thriller with a nice little with the demonic possession scenes. I didn't think they were ridiculous. I thought they worked really well. I thought they were creepy. I really liked the aspect of Eric Bana listening to music, and they used the Doors music. They did a really clever. They they used the Doors music in a really clever way that I have not seen before. So, yeah, Delivers from Evil, I thought delivered. I thought it delivered in a lot of ways. Um, so that's number 14. Number 13 is a film called As Above, So Below. I think that's number 13. I mean, I could be I'm probably off. So I'm not even going to bother with the countdown because I'm going to get mixed up because I added a movie while I was doing this list. So I'm just going to go up the list until I get like to the top five, until I get to the top 10, so to speak. So we had to Deliver Some Evil. The next one is another horror film that I really liked, and that film is As Above, So Below. And this is another horror film that isn't just strictly horror. It also has some drama elements, but not a lot of them. But it's more of an adventure movie. It's more of like an archaeological adventure, kind of like Laura Croft meets a horror film, like a horror film version of Laura Croft. And I really like that aspect of the film. I know some people didn't like that, but I didn't. I was fine with it. And I'm not a big fan of found footage movies, and I thought this was actually a really good movie, regardless. I really like the concept. Imagine Indiana Jones, but with a horror twist. I thought that was really unique. Um, I like the characters. There was none of them that I really hated. I thought the effects for the most part were pretty good for a low budget. The 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 setting was great. Shooting most of the entire film in the real catacombs I believe it's the Vatican. I could be wrong, but I know it's the catacombs, the real life catacombs in Paris. And for the first time ever, the people who own or operate the catacombs, they allowed the filmmakers of As Above, So Below to shoot inside the catacombs, and it just makes the film unique in that regard. The film is already pretty unique anyway because of the fact that it's a horror archaeological movie. It's an adventure horror film. There's not very many of those. And I thought John Eric Dowdle, who directed and wrote the film, did a really good job with the movie. I even like hey, and it ends where it's a found footage film that ends with people who actually live at the end, and that was refreshing to see. Because most of the time in a found footage film, everybody dies, and that makes it completely pointless in terms of rewatchability factor. But overall, I thought it was one of the better horror films of the year, and I know a lot of people hated it, but to each their own. But I really liked it, and I don't get the criticism that it gets. I really don't. I thought it was one of the best found footage films I've ever seen, and I'm not a fan of found footage, so that's saying a lot. This is another film that I reviewed as well, so want to see more of my thoughts on it? Follow the same steps I've repeated a bunch of times already in this video. Um, The next one is a film called Late Phases. This is a film I reviewed recently, and this is a movie I heard about, but I was kind of iffy on it. But then when I finally sat down and watched it, it really surprised me. I think this is one of the best werewolf movies I've seen in a long time. I think it's a really great werewolf movie. Um, I like the premise. It deals with this Vietnam vet who's blind, which made it unique. It's a blind man fighting werewolves, and a blind Vietnam vet named Ambrose, played by Nick D'Amici, who does an amazing job performance-wise, and he ends up being brought over to this retirement community, and there happens to be a werewolf there, and the werewolf had attacks early on in the film, and then it becomes more of a build-up because it follows Nick D'Amici's character around while he's waiting for the next full moon. So, and he's preparing himself because nobody else believes him, but he knows that the werewolf's going to come after him, so he's going to get prepared to take out the werewolf before it can take him out. And then it turns into a really fun free-for-all of madness, and multiple different werewolves come into play at the climax, and Ambrose kicks some ass, and that's definitely my type of film. I thought it had a great cast too, great supporting cast. Tom Noonan from Monster Squad and RoboCop 2 plays a priest in this. He does a good job. Um, you have the last Starfighter himself, who is Lance Guest, who's completely unrecognizable in this film. When you see it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Um, and he does a good job. And I thought the makeup effects were pretty good for a low budget. I know there's criticism from people. They said the werewolves looked silly. And they're not the most intimidating looking werewolves in the world, but it didn't bug me that much. It really didn't, because the film had this sort of tongue-in-cheek feel to it anyway. I know some people are saying it didn't. I don't know what film you're watching, because it definitely did have this sort of tongue-in-cheek feel to it at moments. I mean, the werewolves first show up, multiple werewolves show up one night, and the security guy is watching on the camera. He just bolts. He just leaves. He just gets out of town. There's a moment where he's reading a magazine that I think literally is a joke at is a hint at the violence that's going on in the town. So in the retirement community. So it does have a sense of humor. You just have to look for it. And I just thought it also had, it had a good amount of emotion to it too. It was actually a pretty effective drama when it needed to be as well. I really liked the film. I thought it was a great movie. Um, the next film on my list was also another werewolf movie that I was looking forward to, which I really enjoyed. And this is another film that I believe my friend Matt also, he didn't like it as much as I did. So another film we don't see eye to eye on, and that film was Wolf Cop. I love this. This movie was really really my cup of tea. Yes, it was a bit corny at moments. Yeah, I did have some corny one-liners and what people would consider bad jokes, but I laughed at them, and I thought I had some really great makeup effects for a low budget. The werewolf transformation scene is one you'll never forget. If you're a guy, you won't forget that. It's just uh, every guy in the world when they see that werewolf transformation is going to be holding their privates, being like, they're all going to feel it all at once. Just be like, ow, ow. But I thought it was a really fun movie. I would love to see. I'm really looking forward to the sequel. I didn't mind the Wolfmobile stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. I liked the Wolfmobile. I thought it was a good design. The soundtrack was great. It felt like a throwback from the 80s. I think a 5.4 out of 10 is way too low on IMDb. I really do. I think it's way too low. I thought Leo Fafard, I thought, did a pretty good job as the lead Lou Guru, Wolf Cop. I mean, this is a film where Wolf Cop has a sex scene. He has a sex scene, complete a 80s style montage sex scene, complete with an 80s style song in the background. I mean, and he's smoking a cigarette after it's all over. So, if that doesn't sound like your type of movie, then you're probably not going to like the film. But if that sounds right up your alley, you're more than likely going to enjoy yourself watching Wolf Cop. But then again, might not be the case, but if it sounds something like something you want to check it out because I just it's a fun movie. It's exactly what you think it is. It's a movie about a werewolf cop. It even makes a few references to RoboCop, which I like. There's one guy when Wolf Cop shows up at a convenience store. This one guy, he's all like fuck me," which is a reference to RoboCop, and so I like that. What are you? What the hell? Who the hell are you? I'm the Fuzz. It's a really and there's some good gore in it too. I mean, Wolf Cop rips people's heads off and shit, rips this guy dude's face off, and he's screaming. His skeleton is screaming. It's I thought it was a lot of fun, and it was not it was a pretty short film too, so it didn't overstay its welcome, and it was 79 minutes long. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed the film, and I definitely am looking forward to adding it to my collection. And that was the first of the top 10 was Wolf Cop. So Wolf Cop's number 10, my favorite films from this year. I think that's number 11 because I added Cold in July. So Wolf Cop's number 11. Now we're getting into my top 10. See, it's a bit disjointed. Sorry. Um, and the first film from my top 10 is ABC's of Death 2. This is a sequel to a horror anthology series that I thought was okay. I thought the first ABC's of Death had some good stories for the most part, but a lot of bad outweighed the good, and there was a lot of torture porn stories, a lot of really stupid stories, like Epis for fart, and just really dumb stories. And for the most part, I was kind of disappointed by that film. I have it on DVD, but it's only because I got it for like $2. But there were some good stories in that one though. But I thought ABC's of Death 2 was a huge improvement over the first film. There was only two stories I didn't like. P is for whatever the fuck that fucking title was. P is for something I don't even fucking remember. I don't even want to remember. I'm gonna look it up now just to make sure I don't forget. I mean, and I reviewed the film in depth. So if you want to hear more of my thoughts in depth on the film, sounded like fucking such Sylvester the Cat in depth. So very if you want to hear my in-depth thoughts on that film, um, just search for it, my review on my channel. Yeah, P is scary. It's fucking awful segment, unfunny, terrible segment. But a lot of there's a lot of good segments in this though. Very unique, um, really well done. Some were had some really great visuals. Some really had me on the edge of my seat. Some had a good sense of humor. Some were really funny. It was very entertaining. I was never bored by ABC's of Death 2. There were moments with ABC's of Death where I had that feeling, but there were a lot of really good segments. I mean, K is for Nell by Christine Buzate and Bruno Samper. It might not have made much sense, but I didn't care because the visuals were very striking and very well done. Um, S is for Split. That one really, I thought was a very, very suspenseful, thrilling segment. Um, lot of strange, interesting. D is for Delouse, directed by Robert Morgan. An animated, stop motion animated short, which is very eerie and definitely a freaky segment. Um, yeah, so there was a lot of good segments that I liked in this. M is for Masticate and Man, which is just hilarious. That was a really funny segment. And W is for Wish. That's another one that's fucked up, but it's really fun. It's like a fucked up version of Masters of the Universe. And Z is for Zygote. The last one was a really, really great segment with some of the best makeup effects I've seen in years. Groundbreaking, fantastic makeup special effects. Anybody who says that CGI is better and more effective when it comes to transformations or gore or anything like that, or body horror, you gotta see that segment because that proves that practical effects are still the way to go. But yeah, well, ABC The Death 2, I can't wait to add that to my collection eventually. Get it on Blu-ray. Really love that. I thought it was honestly one of the best horror anthology films I've seen in a long, long time. So, yeah, if you like horror anthologies, I highly recommend you check out ABC's The Death 2. Even if you didn't like the first film, because there's less torture porn, there's less sex, there's less weird ass fucking stupid shit, and more straightforward horror stories in ABC's The Death 2. And some sci-fi too, and some stories that aren't really horror, but they still work. So yeah, ABC's The Death 2, definitely one of my favorite films of last year, and definitely on my top 10. So it's number 10 for a reason. Number 9 is a film called Gone Girl, which is a David Fincher film, which I'd been waiting to see for a long time until I eventually checked it out recently. And I really liked this movie. I thought David Fincher did a great job directing the film. I thought it was a good thriller. Ben Affleck did a good job with his performance. Um, and Rosamund Pike definitely was a standout as this psychotic sociopath, Amy, amazing Amy, and she did a really amazing job. And she definitely did expand her horizons in terms of her acting, and she was able to act outside of the box, so to speak, and play a role that she normally probably would not normally get, but she knocked it out of the park. Very freaky performance. She seemed cold and robotic and distant, just like so many sociopaths are, and it had a really pretty shocking sequence at near the end, and the lengths that she went to were pretty extreme. And yeah, I got the ending. I didn't mind the ending because he was in a no-win situation. He really was. There was no way out of that, and couldn't get away from Amazing Amy, and that's really terrifying. And I thought the movie's actually one of the scariest films I've seen. I saw from uh, last year because it was terrifyingly plausible to me, and this idea of a sociopath that's just so brilliant and just she's able to control everything and she's got you by the strings is just a really terrifying concept to me. It makes me want to stave off dating altogether. Like I said in the review, Jaws made you afraid to go back into the water. Gone Girl is going to make you afraid to date any girl for a long time because you don't know what the truth is or what she's really capable of, and you don't know whether or not she's some crazy psychopathic bitch. But yeah, but yeah, Gone Girl I thought was a really effective film. Good thriller, had some good elements of the mystery, and I didn't think it was a disappointment. I know a lot of people thought it was a disappointment. I disagree. I thought it was one of my favorite David Fincher films. I probably say I would say I'd pick Seven over this, or The Game, or Zodiac, but I still like Gone Girl. I definitely would like to add it to my collection sometime. That's number 9. Now number 8 is Cold in July. It's a film that I thought was just really great. Great atmosphere, great visuals, great soundtrack, excellent soundtrack, and good performances too. Michael C. Hall did a great job as a lead as a lead in this film. If I can say the word properly, I thought he did a great job. This man he shot and killed this guy who broke into his house, and then you find out there's a little bit more to it, and then the guy who was shot, his father comes into play, played by Sam Shepard, and probably the best role I think I've personally ever seen him play in a film. And the father, it looks like it's going to be a typical revenge flick where the father of the murdered kid who broke into Michael C. Hall's house is going to get revenge on Michael C. Hall and his family and terrorize them. It's going to be a typical home invasion flick. But then it goes into a whole other direction and becomes a vigilante justice movie. And the switch I thought was actually handled really well. I didn't think it was disjointed like some critics thought it was. A lot of critics thought people who criticized the film thought it was two different movies. I disagree. I thought those two elements blended pretty seamlessly. And had some good shootouts at the end. Don Johnson's really good. He doesn't show up until 50 minutes into the film, but he shows up and he does a good job and he kicks a lot of ass. And yeah, great soundtrack. The film has this great feel to it. Um, Great look to it too. Great cinematography, lighting. Loved it. It was a great throwback, and the film took place in the late '80s, and it felt like it. And I would definitely love to see more films from this filmmaker who directed Cold in July, Jim Mickle, and yeah, great movie. I really loved it. Um, so that's ABC's Death was number 10. Gone Girl was number 9. Cold in July is number 8. Number 7 is Nightcrawler. Another excellent thriller. Another thriller about a sociopath. This time played by Jake Gyllenhaal. And I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. His performance was really captivating. And the film itself, yeah, the bad guy wins. But I actually didn't mind it in the end because I thought it made it stand out a little bit. But then, of course, I see Gone Girl, and then that kind of ends the same way. So I'm like, doesn't stand out as much anymore. But I personally prefer Nightcrawler, though, over Gone Girl. I think it's just a little bit more. Gone Girl was interesting and had me interested in the film, but I thought Nightcrawler, for me personally, is more my type of film. I was more engaged in it. And I thought it was very unique. Gone Girl, you've seen that kind of thing before, with a sociopathic woman controlling all this stuff, and the way the film did it was really clever. Don't get me wrong, but Nightcrawler, it covered this aspect of our lot of the world that you don't see very often. The night crawlers, the guys who go in and get the footage from the news, and I really liked that aspect of the film, and it was unique. Bill Paxton had a nice cameo role. Renee Russo was in this, and she did a good job acting wise. It's nice to see her again. I thought the score, I thought actually worked well with the film. I know there's a lot of people who had a problem with the score. They thought it didn't fit the movie, but I thought it fit the film well because the score is a soundtrack to the character Louis Bloom that is played by Jake Gyllenhaal. I thought the directing by Dan Gilroy was really great. I thought the writing was really solid as well. Um, I thought the film was a spectacle. It was a great movie. Um, one of the best performances I've seen by Jake Gyllenhaal. I think he was definitely robbed of an Oscar and Oscar nomination at least. And yeah, I thought definitely I really did enjoy the film. Definitely another film I'd like to add to my collection. And I, I I went even more in depth on the movie, including spoilers in the review. So, want to see my thoughts on Nightcrawler? Just type in the search box on my channel for Nightcrawler, you find it. And yeah, I loved it. It's a film that a lot of critics liked, and I definitely did agree with. I definitely did agree with their sentiments, so to speak. So yeah, that's number six. Now I'm getting to my top. I think it's my top five. That's actually top six. Actually, hold on. I'm just making sure I got the right. Wolf Cop, ABC's of Death is number 10, Gone Girl's number 8, Cold in July is number 7, Nightcrawler's number 6. My order's all mixed up now. ABC's of Death is number 10, Gone Girl's number 8, number 9, Cold in July is number 8, Nightcrawler's number 7. Okay, all right. Now I'm actually back where I was actually. Sorry. So I apologize. I really do for this mixed up kind of stuff. There's just a lot of stuff to keep track of all these movies. Um, number six is Guardians of the Galaxy, and I liked it enough that I bought it recently on Blu-ray. I really had a lot of fun with this movie. I saw it in the theater. It was a really fun experience. I liked the old school soundtrack, the awesome mixtape Volume 1. Chris Pratt, I really liked his character, Star-Lord. It was a really fun character. It was like Han Solo mixed with a little bit of the Rocketeer because he's flying around with jetpack boots, and I really liked the character. He was a lot of fun. Um, I also liked the other characters. I thought Batista did a surprisingly good job acting as Drax. I liked his jokes, like nothing goes over my head. Um, even Zoe Saldana, who I'm not the biggest fan of, I thought she did a good job as Gamora. I thought the visuals were really great. I think the movie was honestly robbed of an Oscar nomination for best visual effects. I honestly thought it was the visual effects were really stunning. I thought they did a really good job with them creating these new and different worlds and so forth. Um, the villain was weak. That was one criticism I had with the film, but I had a lot of fun with it. I really did enjoy the movie. Vin Diesel was Groot. Good action sequences. A lot of fun, fast paced, really entertaining movie. Definitely my type of film. I really did like Guardians of the Galaxy. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy. You said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy. I liked it. I definitely did like it. There was a bunch of these misfits, these criminals band together to save the world, and it was a very very fun ride, a very fun flick. And I know DC is going to try to do their Guardians of the Galaxy with Suicide Squad, and we'll see how that works out. But um, I will definitely still have a soft spot for Guardians of the Galaxy. And of course, I'd be remiss if I forgot to mention the show stealer, the scene stealer himself, Rocket Raccoon, voiced by Bradley Cooper. Very fun character. And it's a character I didn't even think it was ever going to work. I thought it was going to be stupid, but they really did a good job with that character. It was a really fun character, and the film did a great job taking this comic book that barely nobody's ever heard of and making a very entertaining movie. And I give a lot of that credit to James Gunn, who's a fantastic filmmaker, one of my favorite directors. So he did a good job with that movie Super, which is more of it, it's kind of a subversive superhero film slash parody. Did a great job with Slither. I've always had like James Gunn's work, so Guardians of the Galaxy was no exception. The man knows how to make a good movie, and he knows how to entertain an audience, and it definitely did show with Guardians of the Galaxy. Definitely looking forward to the sequel as well. But number five, getting to my top five now. Number five is Captain America: Winter Soldier. And like, you haven't reviewed that yet. I haven't reviewed it because I was waiting to watch the first film and then review it. But I have it on Blu-ray, so I will review it sometime. Maybe even sometime this year. Maybe before the Avengers, I'll do a review, which would probably be a good time to do that. But I saw this in the theater. loved it. And I like Guardians of the Galaxy, but I put it below Winter Soldier for a reason. Winter Soldier to me is my favorite Marvel film to date. No kidding. I liked it more than Iron Man and the first Iron Man, and I really liked that movie. But I am a big Captain America fan. I'm a bigger Captain America fan than I am an Iron Man fan, and this was the best Captain America movie I've ever seen. It balanced the grit and the dark tones with this fun, entertaining. Uh, I'm trying to think of the right word to describe it. I mean, it had this dark and gritty tone, but then it was also fun and entertaining. So it balanced all those elements really well, and to a really satisfying mix. Some great self-referential humor, some great moments of it even references the 1990 film, the 1990 Captain America movie. I mean, that's some really great stuff to reference and makes a little joke on its expense. Great action sequences, really thrilling. I liked Anthony Mackie as the Falcon, a character that I didn't care for at all in the comics, and they made him actually really likable and a really cool character. Crossbones, Frank Grillo was good. The Hydra, I love seeing Hydra. Um, the Winter Soldier himself was great. Thought the actor Sebastian Stan did a good job with playing Winter Soldier. There's one problem with some of the shaky cam, but other than that, I thought it was very exciting, very thrilling, very fun, very entertaining, great movie, and from the guys who directed You, Me, and Dupree, and I was not expecting that, and I don't think anybody was. Excellent film, my favorite Marvel film, hands down to date, and yeah, I don't have much else to say about Captain America: Winter Soldier except it fucking rocked. It was an excellent film, an excellent sequel. It was it made the first film look inferior. And I like the first film. I like the first Avenger, but Winter Soldier makes the first film looks like child's play. It was an excellent film in every aspect, score, directing, to the plot, to it even made the scenes where the action isn't going on interesting. It even have Robert Redford come in and play a role that he normally doesn't play and knock it out of the park. And I'm not even the biggest fan of Robert Redford, but I liked him in this. So yeah, I just kudos to Marvel Studios and everyone involved with Winter Soldier. You did an amazing job, and yeah, one of my favorite Marvel film to date, and the best Captain America film to date too. And I don't think Civil War is going to top it because Civil War is I don't like Civil War. I don't like the concept. I don't want to see Iron Man and Captain America fight each other. I really don't. I don't want to see that. I don't. But if you do, be my guest. But yeah, Winter Soldier, excellent movie. Number four on my list is another film that I think is an excellent film in its own right, but it's not a film for everybody, and that film is Birdman. Amazing performance by Michael Keaton. He was robbed of the Oscar. Um, I haven't seen Theory of Everything, but although I'm not taking anything away from the performance that Redmayne gave, that he ended up winning the Oscar for playing Stephen Hawking, Michael Keaton played a character that was completely his own, completely unique, and not based on a real person. Didn't have anything there for him to base his performance off of or imitate it. He did his own he played his own character and did two different characters too. He played Riggin, and then he also played his Birdman, who is this split personality of his. I thought Alejandro G. Inarritu did an amazing job directing the film. The visual, it's just a visually stunning movie. It's a spectacle. It's a jaw-dropping film. You look at it, you're just like, wow, this is just amazing visuals. The cast is phenomenal. Michael Keaton, Edward Norton, Emma Stone, Naomi Watts. Even the film even makes Zach Galifianakis tolerable, and that's no easy feat. It's it's got some really great satire moments. It's got some moments to make you laugh, but then it's also got some moments that really do make you think about things. And I it was a film I was really looking forward to because I'm a huge Michael Keaton fan, and it didn't disappoint. It actually took me a second time around to watch it, and I know it's one of those films that I did the review It wasn't as positive as a lot of other people's thoughts were on it. Got a lot of hate for it, but I only removed that review and redid another review of the film because it wasn't honest. Because I did that review months after I saw the film, so I picked up the film on Blu-ray and then I watched it again and I'm like, this is one of my favorite films of the year. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. It's an amazing movie. It's 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 this great take on Hollywood in a way and filmmaking and it has a lot of in jokes in that regard and just it all is all held together by a masterful performance by Michael Keaton. And if you're a fan of Michael Keaton, it's worth at least one watch, in my opinion, just for Keaton's performance. So yeah, Birdman, really liked the film. The score, the drum beats, it works with the film, but I could deal with it. I could do without it. The ending, it's it is what it is. I would have preferred something else, but it is what it is. But I still love the film. I still think Birdman is an excellent movie. Number three is John fucking Wick. Originally was number one, but then I thought about it some more, and I'm like, there are films that I like a little bit more than John Wick but John Wick I loved. I watched it again recently because I picked it up on Blu-ray. I showed it to my parents, and they saw it for the first time. They also really liked it. Great soundtrack, great action, great performance by Keanu Reeves. He really does show his range. He shows that he can be a believable badass. He showed it in Speed. Showed it again here. Excuse me. Bless myself there. I'm just allergic to the bullshit people spew about Keanu Reeves and how he's such a shitty actor. I don't really get that. I think he's a very underrated actor. He, just like any other actor, needs a great script to work with, and I thought John Wick was a pretty good script. Kicked a lot of ass. He did it believably. The gunplay in this is some of the best I've seen in years. Um, the film has this relentless pace to it. It just keeps going and going and going, and that doesn't stop. And that's definitely in the film's favor. It's a thrill ride. It's an adrenaline rush. Um, it's really well shot too, and by a first-time director who I hope this guy gets more work. I really do. I hope he doesn't end up like Michael Davis and not get another chance to direct anything again. Chad Stahelski did an amazing job directing it. David Leitch did some uncredited directing. Well, then whatever directing he did a good job as well. I even thought this screenplay with Derek Kolstad was pretty good. I mean, he had great lines like John Wick is, he's the man you call to kill the fucking boogeyman. I mean, he killed 3 men with a pencil. I mean, it's definitely one of those. It's an old school film. It's an old school action flick. This is what action films should be. It's just this fast-paced, guns blazing, a little bit of one-liners here and there, but just a straight-up badass kicking ass and taking names. That's what action films should be to me. Shouldn't be They should be films you just sit back, you enjoy. They should be popcorn flicks. They shouldn't have to entertain you intellectually. They can if they want to, but at the end of the day, there should be carnage and blood and guts and explosions and gunplay and one-liners and just straight up badassness. And that's what John Wick is. And we need more of that. We need less of Christopher Nolan's serious, super serious action movies that aren't really even an action film. John Wick is an action movie. That is what an action movie is. The Dark Knight is not what an action movie is. That's a thriller that has its moments, but that is not an action film. Die Hard, that's an action movie. John Wick, those are action films. At least to me personally, that's what an action film is. And it made some money, enough that they're gonna do a sequel. I hope to God they don't fuck up, but it deserved better. It deserved to make more than Ouija, which made over $100 million. It deserved to make more than Ride Along, which was a piece of shit. It deserved to make more money than those films because it is a better movie than both of those films. John Wick is an awesome film, and just because I have a number 3 doesn't mean that I like it any less than these other films I'm going to put atop. It's personal preference, and I still give all of these films that are at least in my top 5 the same rating. They're all 5-star films to me. I think Birdman, actually, I gave that 4.5, but yeah, they're all 4.5 star flicks for me. So yeah, they're all really great movies in their own right. John Wick, if I was just doing a list of best action films from last year, that it would be number one, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So John Wick is a badass movie, and and Keanu Reeves did a great job acting performance wise and doing all the action and doing all the stunts. Um, the whole concept of him coming out of retirement and kicking ass and getting revenge and because his dog died sounds kind of lame, but the way the film does it, they do a great job with it. They turn something that sounds kind of ridiculous and make it actually work because the dog was the last thing his wife gave him before she passed away. So it's the last remaining remnant of his life that he had left. You know, the good life, the life that he wanted to live, and then this asshole takes it away from him. And that's the last straw, and you just fucked with the wrong man. And even while my mom was watching the movie, it's like, you fucked up. You fucked up. He was just gonna leave things alone, and he was just gonna settle down with his dog, but you had to go and kill his dog, and now you're gonna die. My mom actually said that, which I love that. I really did. It was like, ah, you can tell we're definitely from we definitely do share the same genes, so to speak. Uh, ah, I loved it when my mom was saying stuff like that. I'm like, yeah. But anyway, John Wick. I don't know what else to say. It's John Wick. If you haven't seen it yet, you got to see it. You need to see it, especially if you're a fan of old school action flicks. Number two is the Tom Cruise sci-fi action flick Edge of Tomorrow. I saw this in the theater. I loved it. I watched it again. I still love this movie. I love John Wick. I really do enjoy it. But Edge of Tomorrow, I like a little bit more if I had to choose between the two because I'm just a sucker for great sci-fi, and this is a great sci-fi movie, very ingenious. And it's a lot of fun too. It's got great action sequences as well. It takes the concept of Groundhog Day and combines and puts a sci-fi spin on it, and does it in a really unique, inventive, enjoyable, fun way. It's got a great black, dark sense of humor to it. It's got a great performance by Tom Cruise. It deserved better when it came out. Critics liked it. Audiences didn't see it for some reason because of Tom Cruise. So what? He's a part of this crazy Scientology thing and whatever. Just, not everybody in the film is a Scientologist. Just because he's in it doesn't mean you gotta give the film a middle finger. And even if you don't like Tom Cruise, I think you still might like this movie. Bill Paxton is in it. He basically plays the ape from Aliens. A lot of fun moments there with Bill Paxton. Great action, even for a PG-13 rating. Um, Great story, great ideas, great execution, a great premise. Even has some practical effects with the mech suits. I love Edge of Tomorrow, or Live Die Repeat, or whatever the fuck Warner Brothers wants to call it. But one of my was one of the first films I saw in the theater from last year, and one of my favorites. It's just my second. It's number two. So I love this movie. That was a great film, and I'm a sucker for great sci-fi. I loved Oblivion with Tom Cruise, and I loved Edge of Tomorrow. So yeah, great flick. Emily, I think it's Emily Blunt. She does a great job too as the full metal bitch who you don't want to fuck with. And yeah, just I love the concept of it, the live, die, repeat thing. The he lives and dies and keeps repeating the same thing over and over again. I love that concept in a sci-fi film, in a sci-fi action movie, and the film does a great job utilizing that. Great movie. And number one is a surprise. It's a film I wasn't expecting to be number one. It's a film probably you aren't expecting to be number one. And it's a film probably nobody who followed my channel or even knows me expected to be number one. But this is another way that proves that me and my friend Matt we're not just we do have share a lot of like. That's the reason why we're great friends, and I'm glad to be his friend, and I'm glad to have been his friend for years. But I don't understand this thing some people have where we only like the same things and we only hate the same things. I only like something because Matt likes it, or only hate something because he hates it. I don't get it, because this right here is proof that we don't really see eye to eye. Number one, my favorite film of 2014, shocker, is Interstellar. Yes, it's a Christopher Nolan film. I'm the Christopher Nolan guy who's bashing Christopher Nolan's films, think he's an overrated director. I don't like The Dark Knight Rises. I've grown to appreciate and like The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, but I'm still not the biggest fan of Chris Nolan. And Interstellar is a film I just stayed off watching for forever until this year, until I found a link for it, and I decided to check it out because Darren Marquand, I don't know how to say his last name, Darren Marquand, he asked me to check it out, if I was going to check it out, and I said, okay, why not? Wait, I'll do it after I see Gone Girl and a few other films that I want to see first. And I was captivated by this movie. I could not take my eyes off this film. The visuals were absolutely stunning, jaw drop on the floor, and you have to pick it up stunning. The performances I thought were great. The score by Hans Zimmer was good. I like the concept. I like the idea. And the ending, this is where me and my friend don't see it eye to eye. He hates the ending. He thinks it completely unravels the entire film for him and hurts the film. And I don't have a problem with that. That's cool. I can see that. But I disagree. I really do. This is where we disagree. I don't have a problem with the ending Interstellar at all. If it's a paradox, so what? A lot of things end in paradoxes. A lot of time travel, anything, any film involving time travel has some sort of paradox involved with it. And we don't know what goes on inside a black hole. And I've already gone on and on about this with my review of Interstellar. But I can't. I'd be lying if I said this was not the film that captivated me the most. This is not the film that affected me the most. This film just it packed an extremely powerful punch to me. It struck a chord with me in a way that no other film on this list did. It made me cry, not once but twice. It was I was in awe of its spectacle, of its visuals, of everything that was involved with it, and it was just an amazing movie. And I know there's a lot of people who don't agree with that, and they think it's overrated, and to each their own. And I don't have a problem with that. But I loved it. I loved Interstellar, and I can't wait to get it on Blu-ray. And this is from the guy who's not the biggest fan of Nolan, and it's not because of popular opinion. I was expecting this. I was fully expecting myself to not like this film because of all the things, the ending, it doesn't make sense and so forth. But I didn't even think about the ending and the paradox until after the fact, when me and my friend Matt started talking about it, and we started going this back and forth. And he's like, I don't get it. And I'm coming up with theories, and he's like, that theory doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, but maybe this theory, it still doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, it's okay, it's all right. We don't see eye to eye here. We agree to disagree, and that's that's great. I mean, and that's what makes this world interesting, is different opinions. And yeah, I don't have a problem with the ending of Interstellar. It doesn't bother me. It's like the Terminator. How does John Connor exist? If he has to, in order for him to exist, he has to send Kyle Reese back in the time so he can get born. That's a huge paradox. So I don't have a problem with that, and I don't have a problem with Interstellar because I know it's science fiction. It's not fact. It's not based on a true story or anything. I was willing to just let that slide and just enjoy the ride. And I thought the film I thought it had great pacing, surprisingly great pacing for a film that's almost 3 hours long. I thought I would easily be looking at the clock and be like, "Oh, when is this going to be over?" But then by the time I checked the clock the first time, an hour of the film had already gone by. Second time I checked it, an hour and 40 minutes had already gone by, and the third time, the movie's already over. So that shows you how much the time flew. And Matthew McConaughey did a great job performance-wise. The visuals they definitely did deserve an Oscar. They're some of the best I've seen since 2001: A Space Odyssey, and just an amazing film. Every bit of praise the film has gotten, I pretty much agree with, and I have no issue with. And yeah, and there's no joke. Um, and even after thinking about some more, the thing I criticized in the review about the whole, they don't explain why we became an agrarian society. Well, I looked through the film again, and I missed something. There was dialogue in the movie that explained whatever I was asking and explained why we became an agrarian society. And and I was like, okay, all right, there's the explanation. The only other problem I have is the switches, the distracting switching between IMAX and regular, uh, in the regular shots. Like it goes from IMAX, regular widescreen to IMAX, regular widescreen to IMAX, and that was kind of distracting. But it comes with the territory. IMAX cameras are really expensive, and so is IMAX film, if I remember correctly. But like I said, if anybody can afford it, it's Christopher Nolan. And there's a lot of other movies that have been filmed exclusively in IMAX, so that there's no excuse for that. It really isn't. But either way, I thought Interstellar was a stellar movie. I don't really know what else to say. It's my favorite film of the year, of 2014. And I don't really know what to say other than I hope you guys enjoyed this long feature-length rundown of my picks for the best films of 2014. And you can agree to disagree. Leave your thoughts down below of what you think are the best films of last year, or what your favorite films, or what your top 10 are, or whatever, or don't. it, it's fine either way, and I really don't know what to say except thank you for watching, and hopefully this year will be as good, as surprising, with a surprising amount of good movies. I don't know. It's not shaping up to be that great, but I know I'm looking forward to Mad Max Fury Road, and I'm looking forward to Avengers 2, but after that, I don't really know what else I'm looking forward to. Ant-Man, maybe. The second trailer was better. Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justine, no thank you. I didn't like the recent teaser trailer. I didn't care for it. Batman sounds like he's a robot for some reason. Dr. Claw, Dr. Claw, the uh Decepticon. Just no, I don't. Superman's evil, or he's not, or he's a villain, or he's not. If this is all bullshit, then why do you have to lead me on, Warner Brothers? And more, I'll talk about that more later. And Star Wars Episode 7, I don't really care. And I'll talk about that more later. Because I probably see it, but I don't know. Latest trailer is better than the other one, but I still need to see more. But anyway, I still hope that this year's as full of as many good films as last year. I hope it has less bad films, but I don't know. I don't know about that. This year looks like it might be worse. Poltergeist. I'm looking at you piece of shit remake. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys later. See ya.